the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing.
As always, welcome. I'm your host, Lucas Biggers. Alongside me, we got Robert Alexander, James Stocampo. How's it going, guys?
Good.
Pretty good weekend boxing here. Well, we certainly got a lot to talk about. May not have been the best pay-per-view card of all time, but there's still at least a lot of rumbling that we can discuss. First and foremost, I'm going to come to you, Rob, because I thought I remember. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought you were pretty highly touted on Mr. Jared Big Baby Anderson.
No.
You're telling me I'm not going to pull up footage and hear you talking some mad game about Jared Anderson.
Yeah,
I'm not going to have that.
I never was fond of
Maybe
that.
I'm mistaken. I'm gonna have to get Sakura on because I think I could have swore you were backing him. But let's discuss it, guys. Fairly highly touted. I would say his first real test, he definitely failed. Knockout midway. What are we taking away from this? Martin Bakole. Very heavy-handed. So I'm not saying it's all on Jared Anderson. I like what I was seeing from Bakole. I think on a good night he can beat a lot of people. A lot of people were comparing him to like a Zhang, and I mean that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but he made Jared Anderson look sloppy. He made Anderson look like a sloppy heavyweight in there Saturday night. I mean, the kid's equilibrium was off. He got knocked down, multiple knockdowns before the fight finally even ended. Diminishing skill set. How do you have diminishing skill set when you're that young, as young as Jared Anderson is? And you can't blame it on ring rust or nothing like that because he just fought, 3 months ago?
Yeah, they were saying a lot of it was on size and that Bakole was just too big.
Size don't matter.
Especially in the heavyweights, right?
Don't matter in the heavyweight division. You're right, James. It don't.
No, but you said diminishing skills. He's just not really developed that well because, there's some things that he needs to correct. And one of them is moving straight back. He leaves himself in the line of fire. It's half a step up to get to him, and it's so easy to do. And Bakole took advantage of that. He always had Jared Anderson in range, and it didn't look good for Anderson. And it's with Anderson, it's kind of a mixed bag because he's talented, yeah, and he's in good shape, yeah, and he's got a good head on his shoulders. But I've seen him walk all over people, and that does nothing for him. It does nothing for his game. It does nothing for his experience. It does nothing at all. Just to get these guys that he's been knocking out, does nothing for nobody. Same goes for Richard Torres because they've been on the same card for ESPN, and who's ever making those matches is not doing him a favor.
No, yeah, there's no steady increase in competition. You're right. It's just kind of, throwing cannon fodder in there and letting them get those knockouts.
Yeah, but then, it kind of worked the other way. It's kind of the shoes on the other foot now because he's way outclassed, outsized, outgunned, out everything. Not a good show.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of comes down to this. There's a difference between these modern day boxers and what we're used to seeing, right, James? We're used to seeing. When you're outclassed or being outfought on a night like Saturday night, the best guys that we were used to seeing in the past, the Riddick Bows even, Evander Holyfields, those types of guys, when they have that type of issue, then they bring out the heart, right? Bring out your heart, and you try to will yourself back into the fight. And even if you're in kind of a rock'em sock'em situation, you get your power underneath you. You give yourself a fighter's chance By the end of it, you try to build yourself back into the fight. You will yourself back into it. And that's what these modern day fighters are lacking, like Jared Anderson. They've been condoled for too long, talking about, oh, now you're the best American heavyweight. Nonsense. Nonsense. No. When you really see the best come out, James, is when they're faced with opposition like he was Saturday night. When you're under the gun, you like to see a guy, especially a fighter heavily touted like this. You want to see him come off the canvas and ignite a fire up under him to win the fight. And once he went down, he never got going.
Would we
No,
agree?
sorry
Go
about
ahead,
that.
Jay.
He just
No,
he
go ahead.
just walked into a barrage of punches. He was standing right in front of his opponent again. So there's no way out here. It's back to the drawing board big time for Jared Anderson.
Yeah, he's been able to kind of just steamroll his opponents and, like you said, just come in straightforward, exit straightforward, and not really a worry. But you can't do that against the bigger guys in the division. So I honestly think he's a pretty small heavyweight. Would you guys recommend he go down?
He fought at 250, so there's not a lot of room there to go down.
You don't think he can make cruiser?
252 maybe, but that's a rough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to get better. Period. He just got to get better. Giving the size excuse, especially being in the heavyweight division, is just an excuse. He's got to get better. At this point, I don't even think he can be F.A. Jagba.
And that's kind of what I was gonna say. Is really any sizable heavyweight, he's gonna have some any decent sizable heavyweight. He's gonna have some issues with. I really don't see him beating anybody, but he doesn't seem to have the punching power to be able to keep these guys off him and keep them honest.
Well, funny thing is, I had never heard of Martin Bacoli other than I knew that he fought Carlos Camp because I heard that during the week as one of his opponents, but I'd never seen him fight. That is for sure. And I was really surprised because this guy can thump. I mean, he's got good hand speed. He's got good movement. He's big, but it's a little bit like Andy Reese, where he moves around like he's more athletic than he looks. Let's put it that way.
He is deceptive. I really like what I saw from Bacoli. I welcome him back into the ring anytime because, I mean, there's a lot of situations I already would like to see Bacoli in.
Like what, for example?
You mentioned a Ruiz. I would like to see a Ruiz, a Miller. I mean, I'd like to see him in all of those type of matchups.
Let's go to the top. Let's go to the top. Joseph Parker. I need to see if Joseph Parker is still that dude.
That's an interesting
run
point
that he's been on. Let's go to that top.
People compared him to Zhang, but I think he moves better than Zhang. That's a good fight for me too. I liked Bacoli. I think he's up there. I'm not saying he's. I mean, potential. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think I'm faster than Zhang, and I'm slow. I'm like a glacier.
Rob, Bacoli, you think he can grab a title?
Absolutely. You want to see him. He's got his chance. The heavyweight division is really there for the taking. They've got some good heavyweights now, but it's still there for the taking. You want to strike while the iron's hot, and he needs a title shot. Don't send him through the gauntlet of these guys no more. Go after the best.
Yeah, I mean, he won on a big stage, so hopefully he can get a big shot, a big contract against somebody. And if he's on a card like Riyadh season, that and he seems to like with the same fighters. He likes to work with the same fighters over and over again. So if Bacoli's on that inside route there, that means a lot of good things for him.
Well, the heavyweight that just won last weekend is his name is Derek Chisora. How's that for an opponent? for Bacoli.
I like that. Chisora, I think, is dangerous for anybody. He got some punching power, and he's gonna land his. You know what I mean? You got to withstand what he can deliver, or keep him off of you. That's your only two options. And to keep him off of you, got to have some good power yourself.
I think that could be a real good match, like a barner.
Yeah.
I forget who Chisora fought last week, but
knocked him out. Yeah, who did he knock out?
He fought Joyce.
Yeah.
So that could be a fantastic fight there.
Bacoli Chisora for a title eliminator. It'd be awesome.
That would be good too. But let me ask you guys something. Just to get your heads rolling real quick. As bad as Jared Anderson looked, and what the fight was supposed to be, do y'all think Deontay Wilder would have had a good showing against that Jared Anderson on Saturday?
James, you want to take it?
Jared Anderson against Wilder, and how did he look? Would he have looked? That's hard to say. The reality is, I don't know where Deontay Wilder is now, as far as the skills go and all of that after his last bout. But if that punch lands, it's all over. We all know that. So who knows? I mean, that's a pretty good question. I suppose there's only one way to find out.
I mainly agree with James. I think it's an up in the air thing just because Wilder's so off lately. I think if there's even a glimpse though of the old Wilder in there, he wins with a knockout against a guy like Jared Anderson.
Yeah, I think the fight against Zhang was too dangerous. I think he should have skipped that one and just went straight into the Jared Anderson fight. It would have been a much better look.
I think so too, but even though Anderson lost, oddly enough, Wilder versus Anderson is still not bad. You know what I mean? They're both coming off losses. Why not? Two Americans, we get to see who really is one of the better heavyweight Americans. We don't have a ton. You know what I mean? We had Wilder. He was top of the mountain for a while. Not a lot of people behind him, but now that he's going back down, we need to find a new one. But yeah, I don't know. I think Wilder would be coming out of that with the win, no matter what.
Sheik, if you're listening, go ahead and make that fight back up again. You might be interested.
Might have to tweet that at him later. Guys, I admittedly was not able to see a lot of this fight. So, David Morrell, why don't you guys kind of break that down and tell me how you saw that fight?
I mean, it's simple. I wasn't impressed. I was not impressed with David Morrell. This the guy that y'all say is the best in the division, not Canelo. This is the guy who y'all say David Benavidez doesn't want any part of. This guy. Look, there's a reason why I've been telling y'all for years. You don't put a fighter on the pedestal at 10-0. This is why. This is exactly why. It was unimpressive. Yeah, he won. Blah, blah, blah. Get out of here. It was nothing to me. It was nothing to me at all.
Nothing to you at all.
Well, you know what? I was actually shocked that Kalajdzic, I can't pronounce his name, did as well as he did. I was expecting that Morrell would take him out early. And instead, they were trading punches and moving about the ring. The one thing that kind of surprised me was that Morrell seemed like he was like slower or fatigued or relaxed or something. He wasn't that same, didn't have that killer instinct that he normally has. Sometimes you can just see it where he's about to clobber somebody. I never saw it in this match. I was thinking maybe he was fighting early and it was really, really hot. And, you know, he just didn't have the fire in him. But it just kind of surprising that he didn't have that killer instinct in him. Who knows? Maybe it's has a little bit to do with his opponent, who was moving in and out and back and forth. But I wanted to go back and check. I think they fought at 175, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So James, you might as well just say he sucked that night. Just say
Well, he didn't look great, that's for sure.
There's certain fighters though, Rob, you know it, that you can't look good against. It's just impossible. You might be able to win, but they're going to just make you look god awful. Richard Abril, one of them. He's just a good boxer. He's able to create that space, that negative space. So as soon as the other guy's coming forward, you got nothing there. It's just a big nothing burger, and it makes for an ugly fight. It makes the star and the aggressive guy look like he's hot garbage too. So you got to take everything, I guess, with a grain of salt. What little I caught of this fight, though, was it did seem like David Morrell just kind of pop shotting and trying to just follow him around the ring, just trying to get him to stop moving, which can be a feat. But he got to win. Maybe he didn't look super impressive to you. But Rob, what would impress you? Where do we go from here?
Back to it. Yeah, he's only 11-0 now. I'm not putting the kid on the pedestal. He probably needs 5 or 6 more fights before I say anything about him. Big.
Well, the problem now is he's a title holder, right? So we got to put him up against the tough guys.
Good luck.
Yeah, these guys fought at 175. I was thinking that was going to be at 168.
Yeah, he went up. This is his first fight at 175 as well. So maybe you should take that into a little bit of consideration there, Rob. I mean, he's a title holder, a WBA title holder at 168. And now he also has a WBA World Light Heavyweight title as well. This one being for a vacant, I don't hold those as highly, though. You guys know that you got to beat the guy. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, David Morrell didn't do that. So I hold that accomplishment just with a little asterisk next to it. Not saying it's not still something to be proud of, but I don't consider that a legit champion.
Only other thing is that he wanted to look a little bit sucky so that he attracts Canelo's attention.
Maybe. I mean, you got to look a little vulnerable, right?
I don't think that's the case. I'm joking, but
I know.
I was just expecting this guy to be a real killer, and what I saw on Saturday, he was very relaxed and very patient, and just didn't have that killer instinct about him. That's got to change, because that's the David Morrell that got to where he is. I hope that doesn't go away.
Yeah, you go changing stuff like that, and that's how you get Deontay Wilder in his current state.
Well, I don't know. Deontay Wilder is a totally different story. I mean, who knows where he is as far as his career and what he's going to do and when he's coming back and how he's coming back and who he'll be when he comes back, if he comes back.
Right. But, I mean, since he's had Malik Scott, though, he's just – and you can arguably say, because it's the same, one and the same, since he's had Malik Scott and since he's had that last loss to Tyson Fury. Both.
Well, he took a few whoopings, so I'm assuming that taken a lot out of him.
And that could be as well. But he's going away from what he usually does. And, I mean, we were all sharing not to get off too much topic on Wilder because he's not a current topic, but we've all seen what he was doing before that last fight with a mop head. Just it made no sense. Not only that, but he was backing up, literally just pulling back, which is a terrible idea too. So even what they were doing was incorrect there. But I digress. David Morrell, it wasn't the best showing, no, but this was his time to have a big coming out party too on another pay-per-view. And Rob, I think you're in agreement that he blew it.
Boring.
Oh man.
Yeah,
All right.
it was. And there was no fireworks there whatsoever.
Nah. All right. Valenzuela, tames Pitbull, guys. I will eat crow. I will eat crow on this one. I fully admit it. I believe I said he wasn't even going to make it halfway with Pitbull. I know that Pitbull was weak to this kind of style. I just thought Pitbull was going to get to him. And Valenzuela was able to take his punch as well. That's really it. Worked the body, tired him out. Yeah, I mean he withered the storm. He withered the storm that was Pitbull. It still takes a pretty decent fighter to do this, but he was able to pull it off. I'm not saying that Pitbull is done by any stretch of the means. What did you guys think of this fight?
Well, Esau said it after the fight. You know what I'm saying? He said, we just gonna go right back to the drawing board and we take our hits and we get back at it. He's a great fighter, you know, but you got to give it to Valenzuela. He took Pitbull off his game Saturday night. He boxed him beautifully. He gave him like you said, Lucas. He gave him all the problems. He gave him all the problems. And Pitbull didn't look the same. He didn't. He wasn't dominant at all. He wasn't slugging it out. You know, he was overwhelmed with some great boxing. He was just overwhelmed. And it was a great showing from Venezuela. And he needs to take this momentum right here and build off of it because he has to be better to get some of these lions at this division if he wants to win and keep winning in this division. Pitbull will be back later, a rematch probably later on because you know Venezuela don't want to see him. Don't nobody want to see Pitbull twice. Nobody. So it'll probably have to be later on. Pitbull has to go back to the drawing board. But great job by Team Venezuela. They put together a great game plan. They executed it. He executed it beautifully. And he just had his number. He had his number.
Well, I agree with that. I can tell you that a couple of things about Pitbull is one, he wasn't very happy with the decision. He was saying he was robbed. He posted some stuff on IG where, you know, different pictures of him landing punches. But sorry, that doesn't win you the fight, especially post-fight. It's not going to change shit. The other thing was that he was, you know, really grateful for his team and grateful for everything. But in regards to his team, that guy needs a coach because he got no footwork. He don't have a jab. He's just got that that style, you know, that comes forward and just, you know, lets him go. And there's nothing that makes me happier to see a good boxer handling that kind of attack, you know, with a good jab and good foot movement and, you know, in and out and everything that Valenzuela did. He did right. And he, like you said, Rob, you know, it was execution. And I think a lot of times you win the fight in the corner, and his corner got it together. They got it right. And that's how you get these victories. And so in the end, I'm going to say M1, I can't say it, M1 Navarrete. Fuck it.
Manuel Navarrete.
Emmanuel Navarrete. I think I was mixing Spanish and English, but Navarrete got that style. And then this weekend is that Luis Venado Lopez also has that style. And you got to watch it because when you go up against a good boxer, they can mitigate all those attacks with good jabs and good counter punches and, you know, good head movement. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully they'll think about this a little bit before they get in the ring and have a good game plan. But, you know, like Tim Bradley said, a square peg doesn't die round, or maybe it was round dying square, whatever it is. These guys are set in their ways many times, and it's really hard to get change. And I think that Pitbull really does need a coach. Whether Navarrete and Venado Lopez and maybe the other guy Espinosa are going to make changes to their fighting style. Who knows? But it's probably a good idea to consider it at this point.
Would you agree? Need to change, Rob, his fighting style?
Yeah, James, it's boxing 101. Boxing 101. Keep a pressure fighter off of you. You throw a good jab. It's boxing 101. And what Pitbull probably could use from that is he needs to duck under some of those jabs. Because he's small. He's little. He can get low if he ducked under some of them to get in there. And all that. And stop just coming forward. Learn angles. Learn how to cut off the ring properly.
He has no idea. He has
Yeah.
no idea to cut off a ring.
Instead of just coming forward like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's actually what I want to say, though. You don't really necessarily have to revamp his whole style, though. If you can just add cutting off the ring, if you just can teach him that one extra thing, you got to remember, you got a split decision. We're not talking about some ass whooping that he put on Pitbull. He still got one scorecard in his favor, guys. So, I mean, all you got to do is teach him just that one thing, right? And now he's a whole nother problem, right? Because half of the time he was following around Valenzuela, and Valenzuela wasn't there. By the time he was able to throw the punch, Valenzuela's gone, right? If he's able to cut off that ring a lot better, he's going to find his shots. He's able to win that fight. Would you agree to that as well?
What do they say, James? So you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Okay.
Better than revamping their whole style, though.
No. You can't revamp. I think it's a little bit late in the game for that, but he should be able to make a lot of adjustments and use the feint and a little bit more forming, and footwork is a big thing. Cutting off the ring is another. And here's one thing: 140 for Pitbull. That's a little bit high, I think. I think he's far better off fighting to get down to 135 and staying there. I don't think he's going to fare very well at 140. Top competition there will chew him up. Unboxing skills.
Yeah, I would like him to stay at 135, but yeah, I agree with you there, James.
Well, he was really interested in getting that rematch with Gervonta, and that doesn't look like it's going to happen because Gervonta's got a lot of ways to go, and one of those is Shakur, and that's a big money fight. And who knows if Turkey is going to get involved in that one. It seems like he would because it's a big fight, but hopefully that'll get done towards the end of the year. I think that there's some potential there for that fight. What do you guys think?
I'm skeptical. Oh God, I can't talk today. Skeptical when it comes to Tank and who he wants to fight when he wants to fight. Because even once now that Mayweather's been kind of out of the picture, he still isn't fighting the guys that he says he wants to fight. We're still seeing him against, lesser competition. I'm sorry, but a couple of you, we're working on our pound for pound list. We haven't posted them yet, guys, but a couple of them put Tank on there. And I just don't think he has that kind of resume yet to put him up there. So
the other thing is that Shakur is potentially going to fight Zepeda. I don't know where that is as far as talks go, but there's probably something going on. And that Lomachenko is AWOL.
Yeah.
Although he was at the BMO Arena on Saturday.
Oh, he wanted to fight Shakur in the parking lot, but he don't want to fight in the ring. That's what he was saying. I'll go outside with you right now. And Shakur, he ain't doing out that.
Makes no sense, Lomo. Get your ass back in the ring.
Yeah, no, he doesn't want to fight in the ring, but he wants to fight outside in the lot. I don't think there's a lot of money involved in that one.
Okay. A little off topic. We can swing back here just for a second, but before we move on, Valenzuela Pitbull, does it warrant a rematch? I wouldn't mind seeing one if Pitbull can make the changes. If not, I think Valenzuela wins even wider.
I mean, again, later. You don't want to fight Pitbull twice. You just don't, in my opinion. You don't want
Wait
to
a
fight
minute,
him
wait a
twice.
minute. So you're saying you would favor Cruz going into a rematch if it was right away? Or are you just saying you just don't want to do it twice?
It's a hard fight for anybody. It's a tough fight. Yes, Venezuela outboxed them beautifully. Boxing 101, everything like that. The next go around though, he's gonna get in his head. He's gonna tease him a little bit, try to tempt him into a brawl. I could just see you don't want to fight a guy like Pitbull twice.
Okay, so yeah, he reminds me of a Provednikov almost.
Ruslan?
Yeah.
No, I think Ruslan was a lot better than Pitbull. I mean, he was a lot better, sharper fighter, boxer, puncher. Pitbull, I don't know if you guys ever really noticed. I've never been so high on Pitbull.
No?
Because of that style.
Yeah.
It does nothing for me. Because when they do run into a good boxer, it's over. And that's exactly what we saw. I'm just so happy that Valenzuela handled it the way he handled it. But you guys are talking about Pitbull again at 140 because I don't think Valenzuela is going down. So
Yeah, it would have to be again at 140.
I don't think 140 is good for Pitbull. I think he's a lot slower there. And here's another thing. If they do a rematch at 140 or wherever it is, he's going to do the same shit. He's just going to do it harder.
Right.
And he's going to get whooped again.
Yeah, I think if it's right away, yeah, I think it's Valenzuela who's going to come out of that one ahead. If Pitbull can go and learn some things, maybe. But again, that's still a big maybe. Valenzuela may just have Pitbull's number. That's what it may just come down to. But we go from one rematch to another. We got Adam Hurley says, "Come on, guys. Canelo won't get any credit for beating Crawford, so let's go where the credit is. Guys like Ryder and Berlanga."
I actually agree with that.
I think he's joking.
I agree. I actually agree with that, Adam. I wholeheartedly agree with that because those are young, young, hungry lions out there. Those are young, hungry fighters. And at Canelo's age, if you've already made it to the mountaintop, the best thing for you to do is to take out the hungry lions coming up in the game that's already in your division. Don't be trying to take on no quote unquote super fight when, like Lucas has already said, when guys are jumping up 2 times in weight and they've never won at that weight before.
And for him, he's going to have to jump after he just jumped. So he just moved up to 154. This was his first fight at 154. Now he's got to go 2 more weight divisions. Like, it's not even feasible, really, that he could win. I don't know if it's been done in boxing since the 4 weight divisions that somebody jumps 2 and wins, especially at any title, let alone an undisputed, right? He'd be undisputed super middleweight champ. I mean, I can guarantee that that's never happened before, pretty much. So I don't see Canelo doing any of that anyway, and Crawford really doesn't stand a chance. It's size more than anything in that fight.
Now that next comment you got to read, that was funny.
I'm which one?
The next one.
Did I read that one already? Okay. I'm positive the next fight, Canelo will give us what we've all been waiting for. You know him. He's not afraid of no one. I can see it now. Canelo versus Ryder 2.
Drum roll. This suspense killer right there. That's a good one, Adam. But no, it'll probably be somebody like Scully. Okay, it'll probably be mandatory, the former mandatory to get his belt back. The winner is solely be somebody like Solly, who nobody even has ever even heard of.
Oh man, yeah, everybody was really high on this fight. I'm against fights on different levels, especially if it's 2 or 3 different weight divisions. I'm usually against those. I understand wanting to see. It's not video games though. You just can't go that low. It's like talking Inoue versus Crawford at this point. It's dumb. Like, let's not. Nobody's asking for that, right? Nobody's been asking for Inoue to come up and fight a Terrence Crawford or Vergil Ortiz. It doesn't make sense to do that kind of stuff.
Well, and here's the caveat. Since we're talking Crawford now, I'm assuming that we're getting into the fight this Saturday. Here's the caveat. He hasn't mastered 154. He didn't look that great. He wasn't that dominant. By all means, he did not lose the fight. No. But he pulled back on a lot of his punches, which tells me that he was getting hurt in there. He was getting hit with some clean shots, and it caused him to rethink jumping and diving in there to take out this guy. So there's that caveat right there. You're going to tell me you're going to jump all the way to 168? Man, you need to Andre Ward this thing, back off, and you need 1 to 2 more tune-ups just for you to get comfortable at 154.
I would agree with that, but I didn't see that Crawford was getting hit that much. I mean, he had a pretty decent opponent, and he's going to have to take a few lumps. He just didn't look that convincing at 54. I don't think that 160 is a good weight for him. Good thing is that at 154, there's an awful lot of good competition. There's a belt holder, a title holder in there. Fundora, he's got a WBC belt. And there's some other good opponents in there as well. So, you know that Vergil Ortiz is in there, and he's one of them. And Tim Zhu as well. And then there's Erickson Lubin and a few others. So there's a lot of good ways to go. And then if we'll ever find out what happened to Charlo, little Charlo, 54 Charlo, if he's ever going to come back, I think he wanted or made some noise over the weekend that said he wanted some of the quote unquote smoke. So let's get you back in there. I mean, put down the peace pipe and hit the gym.
Yeah, but I don't want to see him come back and then immediately fight Crawford. You know what I mean? I don't want no excuses. No. Come back, win a couple of convincing good fights, then we could set that up. But yeah, let's not go right back at it, because then I'm just gonna be like, ring rust. You know, you got a lot of question marks in that fight. Adam Hurley just said Crawford should definitely fight Ortiz, and I fully agree. Vergil Ortiz is the fight to be made, if not Boots Enos. But those are two big fights. And I think both of those fights are warranted. Guys, though, first, before we talk about those type of – go ahead, bro.
But check this out, though. I'm saying he needs tune-ups even before he gets those type of fights. He needs tune-ups. He needs to get himself adjusted to this weight. He needs more tune-up fights before he even tries to get into those crazy battles.
So you're saying Crawford's not ready for a Charlo?
Charlo's not ready. Charlo's out the game. Charlo's different. No, I'm talking about him, Vergil Ortiz. That's not a good look for him right now. This is a tough fight. Very tough fight for him. And if he does win, he's not going to look good by any means, and he might not win. He needs tune-ups for those guys right now. He needs to get acclimated to the weight. He needs tune-up fights before he takes on bigger names.
I think we're a little bit confused. He said Crawford should fight Ortiz, not Charlo, right? Is that what you're talking about? Or are you saying Crawford needs to tune up?
Crawford needs
to tune up for Ortiz, even though Ortiz only fight the same amount of fights at 154. They're both new to 154. But you're still saying he's not ready for a Vergil Ortiz?
Vergil was fought, twice at this weight already, though, hasn't he?
I thought it was only once. I might be mistaken.
But Vergil is still knocking people out at 154. You know? But Vergil's still knocking people out at 154.
He did fight twice. He didn't have the strongest competition. Delorme, 1 round. That's all he went, and then the other guy was TKO in the first round as well. So he's got 2 rounds. He's got 2 rounds at 54.
He's knocking out people still at 150. Maybe it's a good fight. You're right, because he's moving on up in weight. Boots moving up to 154. Okay, that's a legit fight. But any of the bigger guys that are already established at 154, he needs more tune-ups.
Yeah, but unfortunately, you're a heavyweight champ, or you're a champ now at that division. You cannot do tune-ups. You got to fight
Ward
the
did
best.
it. Andre Ward did it.
I mean, I'm sure he's going to take tune-ups. Everybody does, but you shouldn't be. You should be defending against the best, or at least some kind of mandatory. But most of those are jokes anyway, I guess. But before we get to those type of fights, guys, Crawford-Madrimo, does it warrant a rematch? Because it was a very close fight. You're shaking your head no, but I'm sitting here thinking it was a draw as far as I was concerned. I didn't really see.
If you call it a draw, you can't argue with you. Or I can't argue with you, because it was a close match. There's no question about it. But I'm just not interested in a rematch. I'd like to see Crawford move on to some of the better competition. The name that comes up is Vergil Ortiz. He's got to fight this weekend, in fact, against Bohachuk. So they're pretty much on the same frequency. Let's see him fight towards the end of the year. That's a mega fight. I think Turkey Al-Sheikh should put that one together.
I would like that. And it definitely sounds like he does not want the Canelo fight. He said that now he's backing off of it. For what reasons, we'll just leave that up to whoever thinks that they know. But I think after this fight, it was a little bit more realistic.
154 yet. He's not acclimated to 154 yet. He ain't stupid.
And I think it was also Crawford basically saying he wasn't really chasing that fight. It just means, a lot of money for him. Maybe he was like, oh, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not just giving you money just so you can go fight this dude and not try. So maybe it was one of those. I don't know. But either way, I think it's better that Crawford focuses on people around him in his current weight division, because unfortunately for him, and I'm not blaming him, it is not all his fault, but we know, guys, that there was a lot of guys at 147. He was there when it was stacked and didn't fight any of them, right? So now we're left with this big question, like, could he have? I think a lot of us think already that he did, but we haven't had any of those tests, right? We missed a lot of those with Crawford. So how is he going to fare? Do you guys think he would win those fights? If he fights the Vergil Ortizes, if he fights the Boots Enos, does he come out of those both with 2 wins?
Well, we can see, because they're moving up to chase him.
Yeah.
Good possibility there. And there's also a third contender in there. His name's Charles Conwell. He's a hard hitter.
Yeah. Conwell's up there. Then you got the Charlos and the people who maybe haven't fought in a little bit. So
and then there's his last name is Ramos, not Abel Ramos, Jesus Ramos, his nephew, at 54, and he's very good. He's not at the top by any means, but a really, really good contender there. So 54 is pretty stacked. It's the new 47. 54.
Yeah.
Now it is, yeah.
They all moved up.
Yeah, they did, and it's working. I just there's one thing, man, I really want to see is Charlo come back at 54, because he moved up to 68, was it, for Canelo, and that shit didn't work out. But we all knew what could happen. I think he's taken a lot of that money and partied it up a little bit, but it's time to bounce back.
Yeah. At this, you're not wrong with 154. I mean, a Fundora Crawford fight, that's dangerous. I think Fundora just is the way his shape is and his style, the way he fights, all of it combined just makes it weird for no matter who you are at 154. That's a tough fight. I think Spence was like, I'm out. I'm out of this one.
I think y'all are right. I think Ortiz Boots, because they're both moving up in this weight division and everything. Those were good fights at 147. I think those are good at 154. When I say he needs tune-ups, I guess you're right. Those could be tune-ups to get him acclimated maybe to the weight. But I'm talking the Fondoras. I'm talking about the Tim Zoos, guys that can thump at this weight class. That's who he wants to protect himself from right now.
Okay. Now I like to see the guys in those type of fights. With this current generation, the O must, remain. You know what I mean? For these guys to have that money and to have what everybody considers to be good anymore. Not what I do though. Do you think he's able to pull in and run through the gauntlet if he has to of all these guys we just named? Jesus Ramos, all those guys, Fundoras, Erickson Lubin, all of those guys. Can he win all those? Do you expect him to lose one?
I'd like to see it. I'm going to say something that I don't say on here. But to me, Crawford is in Mayweather category, Mayweather status. He can't go up no more. I think I would like to see him capped at this division. Maybe go up and down, maybe if you have a young Thundercat like Innuendo who can get up to maybe 147 that one day, maybe. But I'd like to see him capped at 154 and not go above it.
I think he can fit 154 pretty well. But if he does, I agree. I think he would only go up to like 160 or maybe do a catch weight somewhere in between. But I agree with you. I don't think he should go above 160. It needs to be right here, 154, basically.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Maybe 160, depending on the opponent, provided it's not a big 160. But there's also another name that just came up, and that's Xander Zayas. He's 19-0. It's hot time for Xander Zayas as well. So
Zayas can thump too.
Yeah, there is a lot of competition in there at 54. Yeah, you're right. And so, and the one that I really want to see is a Fundora, just because it's so entertaining.
I really like Fundora. I mean, it's just he makes good TV.
Well, yeah, the guy should be playing basketball though. Fighting at 54 is the weirdest thing.
It really is. He doesn't seem like he should fit that weight division at all.
Well, that's another thing is that he could move up to 60 and eventually, because of his height, maybe 68 and then 75 and be a 4 or 5 division champion.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, but he needs to stay low as long as he can. I think once he starts putting on that weight, he might not be able to fight very long at 154 now that you bring it up.
Yeah. And then the other thing is I'd love to see that rematch with Tim Zhu. That bout really, really deserves a rematch.
That was a classic. That was beginning to be a classic. I love that fight.
It needs to happen. A lot of people say, well, it's just the cut. I don't know that. I think it would have been a good fight regardless. I think it still would have been competitive. He may have knocked out Fundora, but we'll never know. I mean, Fundora's handled him pretty well.
That's the reason for the rematch.
For sure.
I think that after he had his cut on his forehead, that really had a lot to do with the outcome of the fight. But he managed, even with that bleeding the way it was, to put a big hurt on Fundora, because I think he broke his nose and maybe his jaw or something. He had some severe damage walking out of that.
Oh yeah,
that bout. Fundora did. So
both
it's
of
good.
them.
It's good. And then Crawford Zoo is a good fight as well.
Yeah, Crawford and really this top 10 in that division is going to be amazing. So there's a lot of room here. I hope he stays here. If he still goes and continues to 160 to try to chase that fight, I'm going to be so disappointed. So disappointed. All right. And like we said, this weekend, we got a potential opponent for Crawford in the future, Vergil Ortiz. Guys, this is still a competitive fight, but I assume we're all picking him. We got Luis, Alberto Lopez, and Angelo Leo. That's going to be for the IBF featherweight title. That's on ESPN. And then, of course, we got the Vergil Ortiz versus Bohachuk, and that is on DAZN.
I love it that DAZN is free now.
You're funny.
For you, yeah. Me too, but you know.
I love that too.
Yeah.
That's awful nice of them.
They're getting sued for it anyway. I hope whoever's suing them makes millions of dollars out of them, bankrupts them anyway. As much as I liked DAZN, I gotta say they're just the way they production is pretty terrible. Boxing After Dark just says this seems to be unpopular opinion, but I felt Crawford won that fight comfortably, going as far as winning 10 rounds. Well, Boxing After Dark, I saw a draw. I think Rob, you said you had Crawford by a couple rounds?
No, I agree with Boxing After Dark, and you got to go back and listen to the telecast because Sean Porter knows what he's talking about, and he's right. He was right. I felt Bud was up comfortably in that fight. I felt like it was a way bigger cushion. I thought 116 to 112 was a great score. That's what I scored it. But I could see it being a little bit more cushiony like that. But as far as the draw goes, no. Again, to me, it was more Crawford was pulling back than anything.
Yeah. 116, 112 is fair. 115, 113. Honestly, we did not talk at all about scorecards. You know what I mean? Like, they were somewhat accurate. No, they're accurate. They were actually good, which is good. It's a refreshing thing for boxing lately, is we haven't had to berate some judges in the last few weeks. Usually it's a weekly thing here on the show.
Yeah, normally it's a cluster.
But Boxing After Dark, I definitely don't see him winning 10 rounds. Comfortably for Rob was 116, 112, which is winning 2 more.
Madrimov lost the first 3 rounds easily, and he lost the last 2 rounds easily. He just didn't have the punch output. You don't have the connections if you don't have the output. You got to throw punches. I think Crawford also struggled a little bit. He had a lot of good body shots. He scored a lot to the body. I don't know that it's being at that weight or having an opponent as difficult as Madrimov, because he is difficult. He's a good boxer. He moves around a lot.
Very awkward.
Yeah, no, I thought the scores like 116, 112, a bit wide, but 115, 113, most definitely.
Yeah, and that alone for me warrants a rematch. If you guys don't want to watch it, I understand, but I think that at least he should earn himself. I think anything that close, 116, 112, 115, 113, why not get an instant rematch? I mean, that's a close fight, right? Any close fights usually want to.
I was thinking about this weekend.
About that last time too.
I was thinking about this weekend, and you do kind of bring up a good point. Let's face it, all these boxers are chasing the Mayweather effect, right? Boxers like Crawford, they're all chasing Mayweather. And look at what Mayweather gave us. And a lot of people don't give him credit for this. But when there was a close fight like this, he ran it back.
I'll give him that.
Castile, Maidana, he ran it back immediately when there was a close fight like this. So I would say, to your point, Lucas, yeah, I do kind of agree with that, just because you want to show the fans like, hey, I do this. I'm still him, right? I'm still him.
Andre Ward Kovalev. The greats want to prove it not only to the world but to themselves as well. I think it would do wonders for Crawford. Maybe should warrant a rematch. I understand the money's not there. It's not a big lucrative fight, and it probably is a rather large risk for Crawford going into that, because if he loses, all of a sudden You got a whole nother problem because of that Mayweather effect. Because you lost your O, you're automatically worth less money.
Here's a good question, though. It's not a big money fight, but Crawford's still getting that money. And what I mean is that purse split was ridiculously high for Crawford.
Didn't see it. How's that
What
bad?
was-
Yeah,
How did that play out?
it was ridiculous. I'd have to pull it up again, but they were saying that it was ridiculously high for
70-30.
Crawford. I think it was more like 80-20 the way I was seeing it. But what I'm getting to it at, Lucas, is if that's the case in a rematch, does Madrimov earn more money, more of the split?
Whoo! Okay. Bud bagged 2.5 mil. Madrimov collected a mere 750,000.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a big, big difference. Yeah.
That is what is wrong with boxing.
So one-sided, yeah.
He didn't even get a meal split on this one, but James, this is big. He's 10-0. That's a big payday at 10-0. I mean that's a start now. That ain't gonna really. That's gonna make some changes in the kid's life. It ain't gonna change his life completely.
10-0 title holder and didn't get a mil, while the other guy gets 2.5. Fuck. Get the fuck out of here.
And I mean,
That
it's
is
not
nuts.
it's not like I can understand if we were talking somebody that's like a huge star to him. Crawford, albeit we know him, Crawford's far from a household name, guys. He's not selling out pay-per-views. That's not Crawford yet. I'm not saying he can't get there. I'm simply saying he's not there yet. So to have that big disparity, and there's really not a lot to say Crawford did a lot of the selling into that fight anyway, which is pretty wide. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah. And last point I want to make about the whole night, not this fight in particular. I don't know if we're done with the content
Heading
on
that
this
way.
fight, but let's go to the comments real quick. Boxing Next After Dark. I feel like Crawford hasn't got much time left in his career. I prefer the rematch not to happen and for him to achieve more greatness. And you know what? We can understand that. We all understand that as well. Definitely, we all understand that. But again, I'll go back to what I was alluding to, where as Crawford fought Maidana towards the end of his career, gave him the rematch. I just like that aspect that Mayweather had that people don't give him a lot of credit for.
Yep. I was actually going to bring up the age. 36 years old is old in the sport of boxing. He may have 4 more years. He may have less. Boxing's brutal. And I understand what he means. Like, I don't necessarily want to see a rematch because he's so limited in time. There's other options. People, I don't understand why everybody thinks like these guys only have to fight twice a year. There's just more time for greatness. You can come and fight and prove what you want to prove if you actually want to prove it. I don't think it's there, but I agree. I don't think Madrimov is actually going to get another chance regardless. I think this was a very tough fight for Crawford. Kind of like what you were saying about Isak Cruz. It's just one of those things like, I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to have to do that again. So no, I'm not going to do it. I don't think we're going to get that kind of a fight, although I feel Madrimov should earn that with that, but we won't see it. No, I think he's going to go on to more meaningful, money-worthy fights.
And that's next year because he fights once a year.
Yeah,
he has been lately. Yes.
In 2019, he fought twice. Everything after that is once, so probably not going to change that. He could very easily, but I think he's setting his ways there.
Well, if that's once a year, realistically, we may only see in between 2 to 4 fights, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot left for Crawford to prove if you're asking me. Maybe not for everybody. I don't know. everybody's going to have different standards, but there's a lot left on the plate for me. We got another comment here. If you save Madrimov's face after the fight, it shows you that would happen if Madrimov came to fight. Say what?
So his previous comment, he's telling he was responding to Boxing After Dark why he believes, I feel like, that Crawford won the fight by a bigger margin as well. So he's saying that Madrimov was afraid to get counterpunched. He did nothing impressive at all. And
he was able to counter Crawford several times. And the marks on the face, everybody keeps coming back to that. That is not a significant thing of who won. It's just not. It's fake news. I don't know if just because you get marked up does not mean you lost a fight.
Yeah,
you can get cut bleeding from your eyes, balls, and have skin flaps hanging off. But if you knock the other dude out, you still win. If you win on points, you still win. Marks mean nothing. Boxing After Dark question for the panel: Who was your favorite? Who was your favorite fights before the 90s?
That's a good question, man. My dad.
How old do you think I am?
My dad swears.
I watch classic fights, Thrill of Manila and stuff like that. But go ahead.
My dad swears by this fight, by the Sugar Ray Sugar Ray Hearns fight. Fighter. As far as my favorite fighter goes, post 90s is I like the Pretty Boys. Okay, I like the classic boxing style Pretty Boys. I love Sugar Ray. I'm a Sugar Ray Leonard head. Classy person, been on the show before. That was my favorite fighter before the 90s was Sugar Ray.
I'm more of a come forward type style guy, big hooks. So I'm probably Joe Frazier if I had to pick one.
To me, I would probably go with Chavez, and a close second would be Holyfield.
And Big George. I like Big George as well. Big George was a good heavyweight. That was one of my favorites, George Foreman.
Yeah, you got to like Big George.
So last take, guys. Although I will say this, for as many fights as you have on that card, but I got to get your reaction to the pre-fight Eminem concert. I thought it was amazing. Y'all. I'm an Eminem fan. I'm a hip-hop head. The way that they had the show, the way that they had the concert, how many songs that he did, the quality, sound quality, everything, hyping the crowd, I loved it. Only thing is it's too late. They didn't get in the ring till like 12:30. That's my only complaint. But I want to see the concerts more, especially with the big acts. Just don't put on so many daggone fights, please.
Well, what time did you start watching this?
6 hours, James. It's 6 hours.
But to the end of the fight, it's almost like 7 hours. To the end of the main event, it's almost 7.
Right.
It's nuts. No, I don't see any room for a concert in there, and no matter who the recording artist is.
You almost have to lose a fight, right? Like their purse would just go to entertainment at that point.
To me, take care of the fighters first. Make sure they get their nugget, because they're the ones that are putting their ass on the line.
For sure.
And if you're going to do a concert, do it, the day of or after the fight, or, the night before, or after the weigh-ins or whatever. But I just don't see any room for it, especially with that many bouts. It's just, it turned into a real death march.
I like it more when just like it's a live performance of like the ring walk music, stuff like that. I don't really need like a full-on concert. in between fights or anything, especially like holding off the main fight. I'm ready for the fight to start already. Now you're gonna put a concert in between it. I don't want that. I just want to get to the fight.
Well, again, it was too long of a venue for it. Yes, and there was some very long fights. Yeah, I get that, but I'm a hip hop head. I love music and sports. Jay-Z once did a concert on HBO live across the street from a Mike Tyson fight. It had big numbers on HBO. I think it hit a box office record that night. Of course, that's since been blown up by now. But it was a huge event. It was right across the street. They even showed Jay-Z getting off the stage, walking right across the street over to the venue, to the fight venue. And then we get to see Mike Tyson come in and fight. So I like those sort of things. It's good when you capitalize on it right. Just and I know y'all want to see boxing, but there was 2 or 3 fights that I felt like we could have seen on another night.
Boxing after says I'm here for performances in the ring. If I want a concert, I'd go to one.
Yeah, attending to that, I think that the Andy Ruiz fight was probably not the best.
Oh man, we skipped over that. I didn't even notice, to be honest with you. I didn't have it in my
James, I liked it. I really did. There's a lot of rust from Andy Ruiz, but I felt like he shook it off in the middle of the fight. I felt like Big Baby was just tagging him early in the fight. And then that memory came back to Ruiz and he fought back. I liked that fight. I want to see him do it again. But I do give leniency because Big Baby is just up and down too much in weight. He's got to have health problems doing that. And Ruiz has been out the ring so long, there's obviously going to be ring rust in there.
Yeah,
so I'd like to see it again with, since now if they both can stay active.
Yeah, I don't know. If I'm honest, I would probably just want Miller out of boxing. It's just too many times he already tested positive. You don't deserve any big high profile matches. You don't deserve a fight against Ruiz. You don't deserve anything. I mean, you need to be out of the sport.
I was surprised he did as well against Ruiz. I wasn't expecting that kind of performance from Miller. I think he surprised a lot of people. He connected to the body, and Ruiz looked really, really tired in the middle rounds. But I think out of desperation, he was able to bounce back and make a good comeback, just enough to get that draw. He's lucky. That could have easily went Miller's way.
Definitely agree with you there. I didn't score it, but it looked to me like Miller won. Just had more rounds in there, especially after Ruiz got hurt. He really didn't have a lot else. It seemed to be Miller pulling away with it.
Well, I stopped scoring fights, man, because sometimes my scores are like way different from the judges, and everyone's saying these judges are crazy. So I'm like, I don't know what angle to take anymore with judging. Another thing is that when you judge fights, you want to be alone and concentrate. And if there's people moving about you, grabbing drinks and grabbing food and all of that, it's kind of difficult to judge.
Yeah, judges got to deal with that too, right? People bothering them and moving around.
No, I mean, I think that they are right up against the apron, and there's really nothing in there in the way, and they don't have to answer questions for anybody, or
They shouldn't be, but you'd be surprised at some of the local fights.
Yeah, and they be getting drinks and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, but all right. Well, I think this is a good place to end it, guys. definitely tune in and make sure you're checking out Crawford's potential next opponent this weekend on DAZN. Of course, I'm speaking about Vergil Ortiz. And then come back to on Tuesday after that fight so that we can talk about it more in depth now. Crawford Ortiz, should he win? So, again, Tough Talk Tuesday airs every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And as always, we don't pull any punches, and we'll see you next week.